I'm dead ahead! Watch out!
Those bastards! Why aren't they turning?
There's a piano! Oh my god! Oh, what is that? Is that a barrel full of monkeys? Oh my goodness! Who's bringing lions on the Titanic?
Oh no, it wasn't an iceberg. It was the Terminator the entire time.
That's gonna sound great.
Imagine if it was, dude.
Hello, my name is Fred Stewart. Oh, Jesus. Hello, and welcome to Hot Scrapes and Omens. My name is Fred Stewart. With me, as always, my lovely co-host.
It's me. Hi, it's Taylor.
Hi, Tay.
Hi.
And with us, driving a wedge between us as always, it's Charley Haggard.
It's me. Dude, we don't hear about that on this pod. You love
Charley, you are back again on Hot Scrapes and Omens for the second time.
Yeah.
Very recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
It's like a thing now.
Yeah.
I'm like a reoccurring character now. Almost.
Yeah, you're like herpes for podcasts, but like the good kind.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm almost like that one where you if you know I'm on an episode, I'm like Shorzy. like
you gotta watch that one.
Like not Shorzy the show, like Shorzy on Letterkenny when he shows up and you're like, oh fuck yeah, this is gonna be good.
Oh fuck yeah, bud.
Where like, you know, on the dock is like Shorzy the show, but I don't know. Stupid.
Keep going. Do you want to tell another Beauty and the Beast story?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe at some point in this podcast we can get you to do a scary story about our today's topic.
Well, I mean, today's topic, I am absolutely in love with this topic. I guess that's your job to tell what the podcast is about.
That's true. You know, so like we talked about the other day where we talked about like, or when you were on, we talked about how we sometimes do true crime stories and stuff like that. We're just going to pretty much dive directly into it, but I do have some housekeeping to go over. Christian's family's GoFundMe is still in the description. Go check that out. And your friend Oscar, I noticed that GoFundMe you guys had going for him. That's also going to be in there. That was in the last week's episode as well.
Nice.
So as long as those are up, they're going to be in the description. Go check those out.
Hell yeah.
Go check our friend Joey Edwards and his beautiful art. That's up there. But are you all ready to get wet and wild and get into it?
I'm ready to do one of those things. At least. I'm already one of these things.
Wet?
Wild?
Yeah.
Well, my dear friends, we're talking about the Titanic today. Obviously. Both of you know that.
Yeah.
But you don't know that. Well, unless you listen to the intro and, you know, it's a Titanic. You know, iceberg dead ahead. You guys gonna you know. But fuck it, who cares? Let's dive directly in the story of the Titanic. I'm sitting at a very awkward angle, so we're gonna see how this looks on camera. But ready and go. April 14th, 1912, 11:39 p.m. In the next 60 seconds, a catastrophic incident will occur that will cost the lives of 1,517 people as they plunge their way into the ice-cold waters, approximately 370 nautical miles off the coast of Newfoundland. Some call the incident an accident, some call it complacency, but some believe that it was murder. And the only thing that I know for certain is that this is the story of the RMS Titanic.
Oh.
Never let go, Jack. Jack, never let go of me.
Does that sound just like her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're pretty accurate, actually. You're
Fred
losing it.
Fred would sit on the door too, and he would straight up.
Yeah, there's no room. There's no. I checked twice. There's no. Listen, where am I gonna put my fucking Beanie Babies, dude? You know how hard it was to carry these from deck D all the way up to the fucking top, and then get on a lifeboat, and then fall out of the lifeboat, and then save them, and then find a door. It fucking sucked. Okay, dude. Oh, he's already dead.
There he goes.
So I'm sure it goes without saying, but the RMS Titanic was huge.
Yeah.
The biggest kind of replica that I can think of, not really replica, but one that kind of represents it, is in Long Beach, California.
Queen Mary.
It's the Queen Mary. It is almost a spitting image of the Titanic.
Yeah.
And it's very surreal the first time you go out and you see it. Have you been to the Queen Mary?
Oh, yeah. So when I was a kid, we would go to California a lot. And right around the time that the movie came out, which I loved the movie when it came out, as you did when if you grew up around that time. And I remember my mom taking us to Long Beach, and she's like, you love Titanic, huh? And I'm like, yeah, Mom, of course. She's like, well, just wait. And then we pull up on it, and I'm like, no fucking shit.
Dude, it's the fucking Titanic.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, there it is. Yeah. It was like my life really started. It was like the scene in Titanic where she's reminiscing.
Playing.
No, where it's like they're reminiscing, and she's like, it was the ship of dreams. And it was. All of a sudden, I was back in 1912.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, best swim team year, dude.
Hell yeah.
Most amount of swimmers participating that year.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
No, but yeah, dude, the Queen Mary is incredible. Yeah. When you go and see it, and that's kind of one of the closest kind of living relatives. I'm not sure if it's owned by White Star Line, but I'm sure I could look it up and find out, because around that time, I'm pretty sure it might have been, but around World War II, World War I, World War II, the British kind of commandeered those ships and kind of made them troop transports and stuff like that. We did a whole episode about it. Go check that out. But the Titanic was and is fucking huge. 882 feet and 9 inches long. It's about as wide as I think it's like half of a football field wide. So it's very skinny, but it's fucking massive. It displaced a total of 52,310 tons of water. It's a lot of water. And the Titanic was built for luxury and convenience for those crossing the frigid Atlantic. But let's talk about some decks. Deck talk. I said decks. I said decks.
Yeah.
Did you?
Don't get me twisted. So, the boat deck on which the lifeboats were housed, it was from here on the early hours of April 15th, 1912. Titanic's lifeboats were lowered into the North Atlantic. The bridge and wheelhouse were the forward end, the front, in the front, the captain's and officers' quarters. The bridge stood about 8 feet above the deck, extending out to either side so the ship could be controlled while docking. Nice.
Wow.
Hey, that's a dick joke. This podcast is so fucking stupid. The entrance to the first class grand staircase and gymnasium were located midships, along with the raised roof of the first class lounge, while at the rear deck of the first class smoke room and the second class entrance. Just forward of the second class entrance sat the kennels, where first class passengers' dogs would stay, which I didn't know there's dogs on board, which makes this way fucking worse. you know? Yeah. They don't know what's going on, but I bet lobsters that were on board were fucking stoked, dude.
Freedom.
They're like, if you don't free me, I'm going to sink your boat.
Maybe it was the lobsters the whole time.
It wasn't actually an iceberg. It was just a rogue lobster.
Yeah, he crawled up to the deck.
Slashed a big old gash in the side.
You know, they say Bush did 9/11. Lobsters did Titanic. Same energy.
Yeah.
So, we'll go to so that's pretty much the most, basically, like the boat deck, the first class area was very, lavish.
Yeah.
And then it starts getting increasingly more poor as it goes down. Yeah. Because of course it does. But what will shock you is when we get to kind of near the end, we start talking about statistics of how I don't want to spoil anything, but you'll see. So A deck, as in the letter A, deck, not like A deck. Like there's a lot happening right now.
You are talking a lot about decks right now.
Also called the promenade deck. Promenade.
That's just a fancy deck.
Thank you, Tay. Extended the entire 546 feet length of the superstructure of the ship. It was reserved exclusively for first-class passengers and contained first-class cabins, the first-class reading and writing room, lounge, smoke room, and palm court. Oh, palm court.
What's palm court?
Like I imagined it was something like badminton.
Oh.
But it was very funny because around this time, the Atlantic was fucking freezing because it's the Atlantic. Yeah. It's constantly cold. So kind of pointless, but whatever. So we get to the. It
wasn't a nice sunny day for them to.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that. It's actually insane. So we'll get to B deck. The bridge deck was the top weight bearing deck and the uppermost level of the hull. For more first-class passenger accommodations were located here with 6 bilateral staterooms, like cabins, featuring their own private promenades. On Titanic, the a la carte restaurant and the Café Parisien provided luxury dining facilities to first-class passengers. Both were run by subcontracted chefs and their staff. All were lost in the disaster. Everybody's gone. Nobody's making French cuisine. Except it's at the bottom of the ocean.
I think that might be a little difficult.
Under the sea. All right. I'm kind of reaching here. It's fine. The raised forecastle of the ship was forwarded of the bridge deck, accommodating number 1 hatch, the main hatch. Through the cargo holds, numerous pieces of machinery in the anchor housings. The poop deck. Have to mention it. It goes on and on and on. The C deck was the shelter deck, which is the highest deck to run, uninterrupted from the stem to the stern. It included both well decks. The aft one served the part of the third-class promenade. Captain crews were housed below the forecastle, and the third-class public rooms were housed below the poop deck. In between were the majority of first-class cabins and second-class library. Had a lot of libraries on board, which I found kind of weird, kind of fascinating, but also, I mean, it kind of makes sense. There's no, like, Xbox game room inside the, you know. Dude, like, listen, dude, 1912 fucking sucks, dude. You guys want to play CSGO? hit fucking weed pens all day?
I don't think that's how it went.
No, I don't. We gave it away. So, Deck D, which has the coolest name possible, was called the Saloon Deck. You go on the Saloon Deck, Charlie?
Oh, yeah. That's where they had, like, that dance party where they, like, Flogging Molly played. That Flogging Molly-like band. You know what I'm talking about? Where they're like, they go to that fucking party that's all like hoity-toity, and then he's like, Jacksaw, let's go to a real party.
Then they start fucking inside of a car?
No, and then they go to that party that's all bumping, and it's like fucking like a Flogging Molly type band playing all. I'm going to
be real. I haven't seen Titanic in a long time.
Bro,
to prep for this, like, I was watching.
Why didn't you watch Titanic to prep for this?
Because I was watching documentaries.
Because Titanic is actually pretty, like, historically accurate, other than the love story built within it. But
yeah,
because that's how I
don't know why you're coming at me so hard.
I literally probably wouldn't know that shit, but I saw the movie, and it confirms it. I probably watch it once every like 2 years. It's a good watch. And my girlfriend kind of looks like Rose. And that made it even sadder last time I watched it, because I was like, fuck.
Like, dude, you leave me in the ocean.
Yeah.
She's like, there's definitely no room on the door for you.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I would have sunk it, dude.
You're trying to do like when you're trying to get out of a pool and you kind of do that belly drag thing.
Yeah.
You know, but you're like sinking the door. And,
I couldn't even
get off.
Yeah. It wouldn't have even been like I died like this, like on the edge of the door. It would have been like she would have had to have kicked me off or died. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I would have just brought it down. And it could have even been an even bigger door. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, I know what you're saying. So the saloon deck was dominated by 3 public rooms: the first class reception room, the first class dining saloon, and the second class dining saloon. The first and second class galleys were also located on this deck. An open space was provided for the third class passengers. First, second, and third class passengers had cabins on this deck with berths for firemen located in the bow. Not actual firemen being the guys who shovel coal into the steam engines of the ship.
Yeah.
And they weren't just like sexy firemen, walking around. They were like, someone's got a blaze to put out. It's me, bitch.
Those dudes were badass, though. Like, down there shoveling coal and, like...
Dude, they worked like 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
12 hours a day, and they had like, I think it was like 8 or 10 guys.
Yeah.
And that fucking sucks.
Yeah, sounds awful.
You just shovel coal for fucking 12 hours, go get some food, go to bed, get up, and you're like, hit it again.
Yeah.
Blows. But because the guys were badass. It was the highest level. That was the highest level of the ship, reached by the ship's watertight bulkheads. Through, though only by 8 of the 15 bulkheads. So it was the bulkheads. You know what bulkheads are?
Yeah, it's what closes if there's a leak.
Basically, yeah. It's a section of the ship that inside the hull of the ship near the bottom.
Yeah.
And it obviously goes up towards the top. That kind of makes this watertight thing. Basically, it slows down your sinking, kind of like creates this neutral buoyancy thing. Very fascinating thing. So, Deck E. The upper deck was predominantly used for passenger accommodation for all 3 classes, plus berths for cooks, seamen, stewards, and trimmers. Seamen and trimmers.
All those things mean different things now, if you really think about it.
Cooks, seamen, stewards, and trimmers.
Yeah, you're a steward.
Stewards.
A steward. Fucking trimming is like trimming dope.
Yep.
Yeah. And seamen, well,
good.
You know what semen is.
It's cum.
Jizz.
Along its length ran a long passageway nicknamed Scotland Road, in reference to a famous street in Liverpool. Scotland Road was used by third-class passengers and crew members. Still got a couple more decks to go. Deck F, the middle deck, mainly accommodated second-class and third-class passengers and several departments of the crew. The third-class dining saloon was located here, as was the first-class bath complex containing the swimming pool and the Turkish bath.
Oh.
Turkish bath.
What is a Turkish bath?
I don't remember.
Is it like
Turkish
a pool
bath?
that's smaller?
It's like a bath, but Turkish. There was supposed to be an article for it in here, but it doesn't load. So never mind. The G deck, the lower deck, had the lowest portholes, which I'll get to once we start talking about the fucking disaster. How a bunch of passengers fucked that up. Just above it was the lowest porthole, just above the water line. The first class squash court was located here, along with the traveling post office, where letters and parcels were sorted, ready for delivery when the ship docked. Food was also stored here. The deck was interrupted at several points by an oar loop, partial decks over the boiler, engine, and turbine rooms. A lot of walls. And finally, the Orlop decks. Jesus. Struggling. So it's like where a lot of the engines and stuff were housed.
Okay.
And the tank top below that were on the lowest level of the ship, below the waterline. The Orlop decks were used as cargo spaces, while the tank and top, the inner bottom of the ship's hull, provided the platform on which the ship's boilers, engines, turbines, and electrical generators were housed. This area of the ship was occupied by the engine and boiler rooms, areas which the passengers had been permitted from seeing. They were connected with higher levels of the ship by 2 flights of stairs in the fireman's passage. Twin spiral staircases near the bow provided access up to the D deck. Ladders in the boiler, turbine, and engine rooms provided access to higher decks in those compartments. Now, I can go on and fucking on about the technology of the Titanic. Because at the time, the Titanic was the most state-of-the-art ship to exist.
Right.
It had like shit that like most ships didn't even have. Obviously, that's kind of redundant, but it was like talking more so about like communication devices, the way its turbines worked for its engines, everything on it.
Right.
Its accommodations. It was built in such a way where like you as a passenger could go throughout your entire trip and not ever have to like, think about the engines, think about like, oh, like sure it's loud over there kind of thing. It was just, you're like here for luxury.
Yeah.
Unless you're poor and Irish and you're down to the bottom. Which is technically true. So how at the time it was a state of art and incredible devices made to filter salt water into fresh water if needed. These 3 gigantic engines, 24-hour manned radio communications. But the things that I find the most interesting, but also see as foreshadowing, is the fact that the Titanic only had 20 lifeboats on board. These lifeboats are big.
But there's a lot of people on that ship.
Yeah. So the Titanic was, basically each lifeboat was capable of fitting about 47 people each, right? Enough for a total of 940 people of the 2,240 on board. The Titanic was able to fit double the amount of lifeboats they had on, but at the time, they were well over their legal requirements for lifeboats. How's that to make everybody feel? Good?
Go ahead.
I don't like that. Legally, you don't have to have enough.
Legally, you don't have to have
everybody.
enough. Yes.
Okay, great.
Charlie?
I mean, I think it's cool. I mean, whatever. I mean,
It's fine.
Duke
it's
ships
whatever.
nowadays have enough lifeboats for everything.
Yes.
Is that true?
Pretty sure this is
Does Carnival and Princess and all those fuckers have?
Carnival does a lot of things wrong, so.
See? I mean, they're still flipping ships.
They might still have lifeboats.
And the thing is, too, a lot of like cruise ships nowadays, it's like they're like most cruise ships are like within 20 miles of the coast when they're going. So they're not like, it's not necessarily a means of transportation to take a cruise. I mean, they're cruises.
Yeah.
They're not like, Titanic was like catching a flight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So apparently, according to the International Convention for Safety of Life at Sea, cruise ships must have enough lifeboats to accommodate 75% of passengers and crew members at maximum capacity. However,
I don't like that, however.
the Titanic did not even have 50%.
It was like roughly 50%.
It was definitely not 50%.
It was under 50%.
Yeah. It is definitely not 50%.
I mean, how many crew and passengers were there again?
There was a total of, there was a total of 2,240 people on board. And there was enough lifeboats for 940.
Do some math, Charlie.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Less than 50%.
Goes,
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Do you?
But they still, even for the time, like you said, like at the time, they weren't required to have. They were probably like 25%, and they're like, fuck it, look at this dope ship.
Yeah.
We're going to put almost 50%.
Yeah, see, listen, I was going to put fucking more boats on, like lifeboats on that, but I was like, there's nothing's going to happen. That's actually what the captain actually thought. He was like, this ship is actually unsinkable.
Yeah.
That's what he believed.
Everyone believed that. I mean,
I don't believe that ever.
Hey, here's a quick question, and it pertains nothing to this.
Okay.
Those headphones that you put over there?
Yes.
Would it fuck shit up if I swapped into those?
No.
Because these headphones are worse.
Okay.
Those ones I actually got to work.
Listen, you put these.
You do what you want.
You do what you like. I'll continue. The Titanic was able to fit, like I said, double the amount of lifeboats provided that they had on there. If the White Star Line, the parent company that owned the Titanic, would have put the other 20 lifeboats on the Titanic, there is a chance that more of the passengers would have been saved from the dark waters of the Atlantic. It's during the construction of the Titanic that we come to our first conspiracy, that the Titanic wasn't actually the Titanic.
Oh.
Yes. Some believe the Titanic never actually sank, and it was that of its sister ship, the RMS Olympic, that it sits in its watery grave instead. This theory starts with the fact that the Olympic was damaged while sailing from Southampton, England, to New York in September of 1911, and had to return to Harland and Wolff's shipping yard in Belfast for repairs. The company repaired the Olympic, and it sailed on to New York and back. It returned to Belfast for more repairs in March of 1912, a few weeks before the Titanic set sail. The conspiracy theory claims that some person or people found the Olympic too severely damaged to be profitable, and so at some point switched it with the Titanic to purposely ditch the damaged ship and reap insurance money, and it seems kill a bunch of people in the process.
Sick.
Pretty sick. There's obviously a lot of holes in this conspiracy theory, much like the actual Titanic. Yeah, dude.
But why? Like, why? Why would they do that?
Well, yeah, but the biggest is that the Titanic's insurance wasn't enough to cover the Olympics loss. So, like, they wouldn't be, like, getting any money back. They'd, in fact, just be losing more money. As J. Kent Leighton writes in Conspiracies at Sea, the Switch conspiracy founders quite literally on its financial merits alone, which basically they're not going to fucking get any money. But also people are fucking stupid. So, I don't know. Right? I don't know. I don't think they did it on purpose.
Well, I heard some shit, because I'm...
Or some type shit.
Because I'm, into the Titanic and watched lots of docs on the Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
I heard one of the dudes working on the Titanic who was like young. He was like 18. White Star Line sent his family a bill for he was like a butler or something, but he had to be like dressed really nice. He might have been a seaman.
Yeah.
But they sent him a bill. They sent his parents a bill for his suit that had got lost.
Huh.
When he died in it. So they sent him whatever.
That's fucking awesome.
Like $80, which is like $400 today.
They're like, listen, we're so sorry about your son, but you're gonna have to cover that.
Yeah, well, I mean, they had to recomp some of that money. I'm sure that was not good for the company, not good for the brand.
Not good for the brand. Whether the Titanic was the Titanic or not, on Tuesday, April 2nd, 1912, the RMS Titanic began its sea trials, departing from Belfast, Ireland. During these sea trials, they tested the capabilities of the Titanic, its top speed, turning ability, and even a crash stop. In case you're curious, it took 3 minutes and 15 seconds for the Titanic to come to a complete stop, which I feel like is surprisingly fast for a ship that's displacing 52,000 tons of water.
Yeah.
Pretty fascinating.
That's wild.
It's very fascinating. And they don't go very fast either. It's like 15 knots, 20 knots, something like that. They don't go very fast.
Yeah.
But it's so fucking big. Pretty wild. Have you guys seen the photo comparison of the Titanic versus like an actual modern cruise ship?
That's tiny.
It's fucking tiny. Have you seen it, Tay?
Probably.
I'll throw it up on the Instagram. You guys go check that out. But it's fascinating. It's bizarre how like big a fucking modern cruise ship is versus the Titanic.
I wonder what the stopping time is for cruise ships now.
5 to 6 business days. Yeah. I don't think they actually stop anymore. I think somebody falls off and they're like, "We'll alert the Coast Guard," and then like they
just keep going.
Yeah, like alarms go off, like brr, 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 man overboard, storm side, and then like they just fucking keep going.
I think if they're treading icy water, they have like turrets that fucking shoot the icebergs, and they like.
I want that job.
That would be a sick job.
That'd be the coolest.
You shoot lasers at icebergs.
Yeah.
You're like, Through, and then you just go through some snow.
Dude, that'd be the coolest job ever, dude. You're like, yeah, I work on a cruise ship. You're out front. You're like on.
And you can just chain smoke all night, and you just fucking look for icebergs.
You're on the fucking stern smoking cigarettes, and then you're like, the bow's the front, right?
Yeah.
So you're on the bow, chain smoking cigarettes. Some passengers like, what do you do? And you're like, I look for icebergs. And you're like smoking cigarettes. And you're like, oh, there's one.
Well, and you still
ripping 50s into it.
You still get the call too, like that ding ding iceberg right ahead, and you're like, fuck yeah. And it's just like it's like this. It's like and then yeah, it's just like and then you go through some snow, and then you can make little snow angels afterwards.
Oh my god!
Only if they had that in the actual Titanic.
Fuck yeah, 1912. That's what I think they should do now for sure.
Have a fucking howitzer in the front.
Yeah,
ripping like a 105.
It's got to be a
105
laser
through it. Just.
It's got to be a laser. It can't be like actual bullets. It's got to be like.
Nah, bullets are cooler.
Are they though?
Yeah, dude, like a big ass like anti-tank round.
Do you think a bullet though could rip an iceberg though?
Yes. Like a big one? Yeah. That's all artillery shells are, big bullets.
Yeah. It'd have to be massive though.
Yeah,
that's probably super wrong.
If you think of like how big icebergs are.
Yeah.
I don't know. The icebergs are big.
Yeah.
We'll get to it. All right? We're getting to it.
About turrets and
about
bullets going through
about
icebergs.
The war against the icebergs.
You did your research.
Yeah. By the end of April 2nd, the Titanic was ready in its full crew, and passengers were, it was ready for its full crew and passengers. It was actually around that time that a catastrophic incident, that believed to be a catastrophic incident, had occurred. Much to a lot of people, I didn't even know this, but a lot of people nobody on board other than crew knew this, is that just below the decks at the very bottom where the furnace is.
Yeah.
It's where you keep all your firemen, all the coal and stuff. Mm-hmm. Coal had spontaneously combusted and began burning for days and days and days. And it did not stop burning until a few hours before the Titanic sank. Huh. Which is fucking pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
Firemen were down there and shoveling burning coal into the furnace as fast as they could, getting little to no effect.
Yeah.
And when we can get a little further down in the story, I'll talk about the conspiracy behind that. But it's around this time that starts happening. So, on Wednesday, April 10th, 1912, the Titanic began its maiden voyage. We're getting wet, baby! And a total of 920 passengers boarded the vessel, 179 in first class, 247 second class, and 494 in third class. They actually also ended up making another couple stops, picking up more passengers.
Yeah.
The maiden voyage began at noon as scheduled. An accident was narrowly averted with only a few minutes later as the Titanic passed the moored liners SS City of New York of the American Line and the Oceanic of the White Star Line, the latter of which would have been running mate of the service from Southampton. The ship's displacement caused both of the smaller ships to be lifted by a bulge of water and dropped into a trough. New York's mooring cables could not take the sudden strain and snapped, swinging around stern first towards the Titanic. A nearby tugboat named the Vulcan came to the rescue by taking the New York under tow, and Captain Smith, the captain of the Titanic, ordered Titanic's engines to be put full astern. The two ships avoided collision by a distance of 4 feet.
Shit.
Not a great start.
No.
Catches on fire. Almost causes a major wreck. Not great.
No.
Not great for anybody. The incident delayed Titanic's departure for another hour while the drifting New York was brought under control. The voyage across the Atlantic was pretty underwhelming, to say the least, for the Titanic until the aforementioned disaster. It was cold, it was windy, and overall pretty chill as it continued its route. That was for the first 3 days. But like I said, a fire had begun in the Titanic's forwardmost coal bunker approximately 10 days prior to the ship's departure. So it's been burning for well over a week at this point.
Yeah.
And continued to burn continuously, pretty much till it sank. The fire frequently occurred on board steamships at the time due to spontaneous combustion of the coal. The fire continued to burn until April 14th, the final day of the Titanic. Some believe that the firefighting attempts on board the Titanic had actually weakened the metal of the ship, creating a break point inside the hull itself. Because where the oh my god, I'm forgetting the name of it now. Where the water rushes in case of sinking.
The bulkheads.
Bulkheads, thank you. Where the furnaces were for the ship to power the steam engines, on the other side of that wall was a bulkhead. And so that was essentially heating up this metal. And Charlie, we work with metal. What does metal do when it gets hot?
It melts.
It melts, it expands. It kind of starts...
It can bend.
It can do so many things. And with the way the ship was made is they would use these big ass rivets, right? And they would hand make these rivets. Basically, heat up a big piece of steel, stick it through a hole, and a guy would be waiting out there with a sledgehammer and hammer it. But steel's expensive, and they believe that they were actually kind of trying to cut costs with iron, putting iron in there, which we know isn't going to last very long in salt water. Not as strong, not going to last very well in salt water. It's going to rust over time. It's not going to look great, right? Trying to splice those two together, not a great look. So some believe that the Titanic was weakened in this area because of this fire, because of the poor materials inside. And later on, we get in the ship sinking. This area becomes a fucking danger zone, with a crazy escape.
Yeah, this sounds more like probable for sure, because there was a lot of hype around the Titanic, right? Coming out, it's gonna be this ship of dreams, it's got a lot of hype, and it's almost like, oh yeah, like there was like this big iceberg, they couldn't see it. That seems more probable than some like shit they could have known beforehand, like, oh, there's this fire that's been going on the inside, maybe we shouldn't go out, but
yeah, but I mean, you're going to lose all that money.
Yeah, there's such a hype around it that deciding to not run.
Oh yeah, I didn't include all the passengers that were like famous on board this ship because it was a fucking mile long of like the guy who runs the Swiss bank. This guy's a fucking he's like a dictator of like a country. That like high prominent people were on the ship, and it's like you're gonna tell all these rich investors like, be a little fire on board, can't go out. No, they're gonna be like, you send that fucking boat out. I don't give a fuck. That fire's gonna go out eventually, probably.
Yeah.
Probably
not.
Probably not. It's gonna keep catching on fire because it's a fucking coal. It's gonna keep burning forever.
I don't think people realize how long coal fires will last. There's a city where the whole underground coal fire thing.
It's
in California?
No, it's in Pennsylvania, and it's named after a town in Washington. It's Centralia.
Centralia, that's what it is.
Yeah,
that's what.
It's all on fire under there, and there's so much coal that it's just never gonna stop.
It's never gonna stop, and that's actually what they based the game series Silent Hill off of. Was that town, which is actually very fun. We should do a fun little episode about abandoned towns.
Yeah, I'll hop on for that one.
Fucking A, dude. Maybe go visit some abandoned towns beforehand. It'd be kind of fun.
A duckling?
H.G.O. does a field trip. So in the ultimate foreshadowing of the Titanic received a series of warnings from other ships of drifting ice in the area of the Great Banks of Newfoundland, but Captain Smith ignored them. One of the ships to warn Titanic was the Atlantic Line's Atlantic Line's Masaba. Nevertheless, Titanic continued to steam at full speed, which was standard practice at the time. Although not trying to set a speed record, timekeeping was a priority, and under prevailing maritime practices, ships were often operated close to full speed. Ice warnings were seen as advisories, and reliance was placed upon lookouts and watch on the bridge. It was generally believed that ice posed little danger to large vessels, especially one as big as the Titanic. And they received so many more calls about this. So close calls to ice were not uncommon, and even head-on collisions had not been disastrous. In 1907, the SS Kronprinz Wilhelm, a German liner, had rammed an iceberg, but still completed its voyage. And Captain Smith said in 1907 that he could not imagine any condition which would cause a ship to founder. Modern shipbuilding has gone beyond that. Basically, like, ships can't sink now. Essentially, is what he says. But I know you're sick. Jesus Christ! I know you guys are sick fucks, and I know why you're here. I know why you're here because you have to be. You guys want to hear about a horrific crash on the Mayhem? You guys are fucking sick, but so do I. So, at 11:40 p.m., the ship's time, on April 14th, lookout Frederick Fleet spotted an iceberg, immediately headed to the Titanic, and alerted the bridge with 3 bells. And there's a lot of speculation about why he couldn't see this iceberg.
Yeah.
Which is very weird, because on the night of the disaster, it was clear. The clearest it's ever been in this area. It was so clear that a lot of vessels in the surrounding area they said it was like the stars were so bright that it was like daytime. It's fucking gorgeous out here in the Atlantic. Just to the north of them was the California, I believe. I can't remember. Californian was just north of them, and they had actually stopped because of sheet ice that was coming in.
Right.
And they're calling the Titanic and saying, "Hey, there's sheet ice. You guys got to watch out." And the Captain Smith is going like, "Fuck you, pussy. I'm not stopping."
They said a specific thing, and it like basically, what was it? Get off the air, old man, is what they told him.
Yes, it was something along the lines of like, it was like, get off the air.
I'm pretty sure it was get off the air, old man.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, according to the documentary we watched the other night.
Yeah.
But it just fucking hey, you might want to watch out. There's a lot of sheet ice. Get off the fucking air, you fucking dumb bitch.
Yeah.
Like,
and they believe that this iceberg that was drifting down from the north was they had heard about this iceberg coming down, and so they initially shifted their course, I believe 30 degrees to the southwest to kind of surpass this iceberg. They believe they were kind of basically going to go around it, and that ended up being kind of the downfall of the Titanic, because if they would have stayed course, probably would have missed it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the 2 lookouts, there's actually 2 lookouts that were on top of the Titanic, and they didn't have any binoculars at the time because they were left in the second officer's quarters, who had actually not been on board. He got replaced, and he took his fucking key with him when he left. So, no binoculars. They're just out there chilling, shaking, being cold. But these guys were seasoned iceberg spotters.
Yeah.
They basically go and they stand up there and they go, "It's a fucking iceberg." That's their entire job.
Yeah.
That's what they get paid for. And he didn't see it. So sees this iceberg, says, "Iceberg ahead," rings the bell 3 times. First Officer William Murdoch ordered the ship full to be steered around the iceberg and engines be reversed. Basically just like, fucking go left, all forward left, like go left as hard as you can, and we're going to just try to Tokyo drift this boat up and around this iceberg.
Yeah.
Which ended up being the ship's downfall due to its engines, the way the ship kind of works, because it was so long. You're effectively, it's kind of hard to tell when I do it like that, but your ship, look a little sideways, your ship going like this, right? But then it turns, and your back end, kind of your side, you're basically exposing your entire side of your vessel as it hits.
Yeah.
Essentially doing a power slide.
Essentially doing a power slide into this iceberg.
Yeah.
So ordered engine to be reversed, but it was too late. The starboard side of the Titanic struck the iceberg, creating a series of holes below the waterline. The hole was not punctured, but rather dented such that the steel plates of the hole buckled and separated, allowing water to rush in. 5 of the 16 watertight compartments were heavily breached by the water. And you're probably wondering for the passengers on board of like, how, you gotta imagine like they hit and like, all the shit scatters and like.
Yeah.
No. This ship is so big that no one notices. People are in the rooms, they're reading. Some people are at the slooms. Maybe they're at the Jack's party.
They're having sex.
Having sex in a fucking car. Doing whatever.
In a car?
Pay me like one of your French girls. It's like that shit's happening on board. And they're like, what was that bump? And he's like, do you want this fucking drawing or not? I worked fucking really hard on this. This would really piss if you don't want this thing, dude. I never tried to get out of it, dude. Got any pencil sharpener on you? It's like, yeah, never mind. All right. So, but no one really notices other than the crew.
Yeah.
And they immediately go alert the captain. They're like, we just hit a fucking iceberg. A 6th compartment and boiler room 5 was also slightly compromised. However, its flooding was contained to its starboard coal bunker for some time with the assistance of pumps. It soon became clear the Titanic would sink, as the ship could not remain afloat for more than 4 compartments flooded. Titanic began sinking bow first, with water spilling from the compartment to the compartment over the top of each watertight bulkhead as the ship's angle and the water became steeper. Those aboard the Titanic were ill prepared for such an emergency, in accordance with accepted practices at the time, as ships were seen as largely unsinkable and lifeboats were intended to transfer passengers to nearby rescue vessels. Titanic had only enough lifeboats to carry half of those on board. The ship carried the full complement of about 3,339 passengers crew, and only a third could be accommodated by lifeboats. So, if it was maxed out, they could only carry a third of their like fully packed boat.
Right.
Which is insane. And also, most passengers on board, when they started calling like, hey, we're going to start evacuating, most passengers started opening their fucking windows, their port windows to the rooms that are like watertight,
Yeah.
Kind of made to like keep water out. And they're poking their heads out. And they're like, we're fucking sinking. And then they're like, listen, guys, we gotta get the fuck out of here. And they left the windows open, which is believed to be a pretty like main cause for the ship sinking even faster. So
that makes sense.
Not great. But I mean, can you blame them? You're like, we hit an iceberg. You're gonna be like, I'm gonna fucking take a look. What's going on over here?
I mean,
I would take a look real quick.
But then would you close the window behind you?
Fuck you, probably. I want to be polite, I wouldn't want to be like, I'm gonna leave that open, like, cause like, what if we're not actually sinking? Come back, dude, all your shit's wet. That sucks, Be like, dude, my fucking Game Boy's ruined, dude. Like, don't worry, you're gonna go to the war soon. The crew had not been trained adequately in carrying out an evacuation. The officers did not know how many people they could safely put aboard lifeboats and launch many of them barely half full. Third-class passengers were largely left to fend for themselves, causing many of them to become trapped below the decks as the ship filled with water. The women and children first protocol was generally followed when loading lifeboats, and most of the male passengers and crew were left aboard. Women and children survived at rates of about 75 and 50%, while only 20% of men survived.
Well, that's what they always do, is put children and women on the boats first.
Yeah, that's true.
And then said, I don't know, they're full.
That was at the time.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine back then? They're like, where they're like, they like put only children in a boat, And they're like, how old are you? 10? You're in charge. And he's like, we're becoming fucking pirates. Like, immediately, they're like, attack that boat. They're like launching fucking rockets at like lifeboats and shit. They're like, give me all your bread. Is that where you're going, Charlie?
No.
No, where were you going?
No, I was thinking. Oh, I'm not even gonna say what.
You got to say it now.
Well, I feel like if that happened nowadays,
Yeah.
there would be a lot of people real quick saying that they identify as a woman.
I identify as a 10-year-old boy right now.
And this is my mother, and it's me.
This is my mom. This is my grandma, actually.
And then I pull up.
I'm his grandma.
There you go. That's the voice I love.
So, between 2:10 and 2:15 a.m., a little over 2.5 hours after the Titanic struck the iceberg, the sinking rate suddenly increased as the boat deck dipped underwater, and the sea poured through open hatches and grates. As the ship's unsupported stern rose out of the water, exposing the propellers, the ship broke into two main pieces between the second and third class funnels due to immense forces on the keel. And passengers and survivors that survived the Titanic, they said they watched as the ship kind of began to lift its back end out, and it started making this horrific groaning noise.
Yeah.
Like that. And watched as the ship's lights began to flicker out in great mass until finally it snapped. And have you guys seen the drama, like the real time sinking of the Titanic?
Yeah.
I think so.
They you probably saw the same one I saw. That's like hours long, right?
Well, it took around 2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah, it took a long.
But like if you scroll through that shit, it's like 2.5 hours of it kind of like, this motherfucker's not sinking, and then all of a sudden it's like quick. Like it got really dramatic really quick. I think they say something in the Titanic too that it's like part of it of the sinking scene of the Titanic is in real time.
Mm-hmm. It's when you watch the dramatization of the real Titanic sinking, it's horrifying because you really get a scale of like what it would be like to be sitting in a lifeboat watching, and then as you just watch all your lights that you have disappear, and you're in blackness with just the stars, and you just can see the shadow of the Titanic snap. It's fucking super scary. With the bow underwater and the air trapped in the stern remained afloat and buoyant for a few minutes longer, rising to a nearly vertical angle with hundreds of people clinging to it before foundering at 2:20 a.m. and sinking to its watery grave. Go ahead.
We're listening.
Come join us in your watery grave.
Yeah, I was setting you up for that too. I was setting you up for it, and I was hoping you were gonna take it. That's awesome. It's one of the best fucking jokes ever. But what's fucked up about like all these people were standing on the fucking back end of the ship, clinging on for dear life. Yeah. As it begins to sink, and what is fucked up is when ships sink. It's like, you guys ever done a cannonball in water?
Yeah.
And you know when you jump in, you do the cannonball, and you plunge in the water, and you feel that suction of water on top of you? Imagine that, but it's half of a fucking ship.
Yeah, it sucked people down.
Pulls them straight fucking down. And that was the fate of a lot of people on the back end of the Titanic. So all the remaining passengers and crew were immersed in the water that was around 28 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 2 degrees Celsius, below freezing. Yeah. Only 5 who were in the water were helped into lifeboats, though the lifeboats had room for more than almost 500 people. No one came to anybody's rescue. Everyone just sat and cried and were in stunned silence as they realized that they were facing death. Yeah. Because as far as they know, no one's coming. Distress signals were sent by wireless rockets and lamp, but none of the ships that responded were near enough to reach the Titanic before sinking. There was actually a ship to their south that saw flares going off, but they didn't, at the time, flares weren't like known as a distress signal.
That's what happened with the Californian too.
That was the Californian. That's what I'm thinking of. So
the
the north.
saw him.
California saw him, yeah. There's nothing we can do. Ship to the south. We're like,
there was one
something
ship
going
on
on
their way, but took hours.
The radio operator on board the SS Birma, for instance, estimated that it would be 6 a.m. Before the liner could arrive at the scene. Meanwhile, the SS Californian, which was the last to have been in contact before the collision, saw the Titanic's flares but failed to assist. Around 4 a.m., RMS Carpathia arrived on scene in response to Titanic's earlier distress calls of them striking the iceberg. Little bit too late.
Yeah.
And lifeboat number 2, 4th Officer Boxhall lit several green Roman candles, signaling the Carpathia to make way towards them. The ship pulled alongside number 2, where a woman in the boat cried, "Titanic has gone down with everyone on board." Boxhall quickly replied with, "Shut up, lady!" Boxhall later apologized for his outbursts, but both people involved agreed that it was acceptable given the circumstances they had ensured and their current conditions. But he's like, shut the fuck up! And in case you're wondering what happened to Captain Smith on board the Titanic, he fucking went down with the ship.
Yeah.
Like a real captain.
Like a thug. Dude.
Like a fucking thug, dude.
The guy who was doing the distress signals went down too. Up until he couldn't anymore. He kept giving that distress signal.
Yep. Up until it was over.
Yep.
Which is absolute fucking G's, dude. All of them. You know, they did what they could. They were all just out there trying to have fun. Like, it's not like the Costa Concordia, where I'm like, the captain who like abandoned his fucking cruise ship as it was fully like listing to its left-hand side.
Yeah.
What's it, port side, right? Charlie, you know boat stuff.
Yeah.
Is it port side or starboard is your left hand?
Oh, fuck, I don't know.
All right, dude, perfect.
We're asking the hard questions today.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know the poop deck.
You do know the poop deck.
Yeah.
One by one, Titanic's lifeboats were picked up by the Carpathia. Passengers from collapsibles A and B were transferred into boats and ferried to the Carpathia. Collapsible C was towed by lifeboat 14, the Carpathia, where a 5th Officer Lowe rigged a sail. When asked how he knew, Lowe replied, "Not all sailors are seamen, and not all seamen are sailors." I struggle getting through to read that.
Yeah.
It's true, though. When the ship sank, the lifeboats that had been lowered were only filled up to about an average of 60%. 706 people survived the disaster and were conveyed to the Carpathia to New York Titanic's original destination, while 1,517 people died in the frigid waters of the Atlantic.
Yeah, it's fucking wild.
It's insane. And what's really fucked up about like that is, like I said, only 5 people were rescued out of the water. There's hundreds in the water. And people they're like, there's no room. There's plenty of room. 60% on average per lifeboat. And it takes a long fucking time for you to die of hypothermia.
Yeah.
So these people were swimming, trying to cling on to lifeboats, probably getting smacked off of them, whatever was happening. Or maybe they were drifting too far away because of the current. And fucking, as you're sitting there and you're freezing, you start getting nice and warm, that your body starts shutting down, then you just start sinking. That's it. That's it. You're done. That was the fate for hundreds of people. But Carpathia's captain described the place as an ice field that included 20 large bergs measuring up to 200 feet high and numerous smaller bergs, as well as ice flows and debris from Titanic. Passengers described being in the middle of the vast white plain of ice with vast white plain of ice studded with icebergs. This area is known as Iceberg Alley. RMS Carpathia took 3 days to reach New York after leaving the scene of the disaster, with the journey slowed down by pack ice, fog, thunderstorms, and rough seas. Carpathia was, however, able to pass news to the outside world by wireless about what had happened to the Titanic. Initial reports were confusing, leading the American press to report erroneously on April 15th that the Titanic was being towed to port by the SS Virginian. Later on that night of April 15th, White Star reported a message was received saying Titanic had sunk. But all passengers and crew had been transferred to another vessel. Later that day, confirmation came through that the Titanic had been lost and that most of the passengers and crew had died. The news attracted crowds of people to the White Star Line's offices in London, New York, Montreal, Southampton, Liverpool, and Belfast. It hit hardest in Southampton, whose people suffered the greatest losses of the sinking. 4 out of 5 crew members had come from this town. Excuse me. Carpathia docked at 9:30 p.m. on April 18th in New York at Pier 54. It was greeted by an estimated 40,000 people waiting at the quay side in heavy rain. Immediate relief in the form of clothing and transportation to shelters was provided by a Women's Relief Committee. The Women's Relief Committee, the Travelers Aid Society of New York, and the Council of Jewish Women, among other organizations, helping survivors get to places that were warm, get them some food, get them some help. Many of the Titanic surviving passengers did not linger in New York, but headed onwards immediately to relatives' homes. Some of the wealthier survivors chartered private trains to take them home, and the Pennsylvania Railroad laid on special train free of charge to take survivors to Philadelphia. Titanic's 204 surviving crew members were taken to the Red Star Line's steamer SS Lapland, where they were accommodated in passenger cabins. So, in the rare case that everybody comes together and starts helping passengers, helping these crew members, versus like we talked about earlier, which is the White Star Line being like, I'm going to need money back for that fucking tuxedo. Yeah. Everybody else is like being super cool, helping everybody, doing what they can.
Wasn't there was a crew member who, he was on the Titanic, survived the sinking of the Titanic, then went on to another ship that also sank.
Yes.
And then survived that one, made it to a third ship, which also sank.
Yeah, that guy, I don't remember that guy's name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Which, like, wild.
Yeah, it's not, you got to stop going on boats after that, dude. You're done, dude.
It's like, maybe you don't want to go on a boat anymore. Maybe, possibly.
Yeah, you got to stop going on boats, dude. So crowds gathered, newspapers, offices, and everywhere to see if they could find their loved ones that were still missing from Titanic. But that was it. It took 4 days for them to confirm the 1,514 that were lost at sea. And I talked before about statistics, about who died and what happened. So there's 2,224 people on board. All right. Yeah. 1,514 people died. 710 survived the sinking of the Titanic. So a 68% loss rate on passengers. Well over half. Only 32% were saved. For the men, women, and children on board, statistics for the first class cabin, percentage loss was 17 in the first class cabin. In the second class cabin for children, 100% were saved. And the third class cabin, 66% perished. For the women, the first class, 97% survived because they're right there. 86% survived in second class, and in third class, 54% perished. Kind of the poor decks of these people.
Yeah.
For the men, first class cabin, 67% had perished. And in the second class, an astounding 92% of the men in the second class cabin perished. Jesus. And in the third class, 84% perished. And for the crew, all the men on the crew, which was a total of 885, 78% perished.
That's crazy.
Really puts into perspective of like how that shit went down.
Yeah.
And because like a lot of these guys, gals, and everybody that was on board, especially the ones that were in the poor class or crew, whether if they could even make it out on the deck, they had probably a higher survival rate than anybody else. But if they couldn't make it out, like that was it. You're fucking done. You're cooked.
Do you think there was anyone on the Carpathia ship that was stoked when they're like, damn, all these ladies be showing up?
No, I think everyone was...
And they're all like widows, too.
So you're telling me you're single? No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anybody was super stoked. I think they're all like just mortified. That, you know what? There was probably one guy that was on board.
Guaranteed there was one.
There was at least one guy who was like, she's like, my fucking husband. He's like, that's super sad, dude. But like, what are you doing later? She's like fucking shivering from being in fucking 20-degree water.
Mourning my husband's death?
Yeah, but like, you single now or what?
Yeah, guarantee it, dude.
Yeah, dude. That's so fucked up because I was totally thinking that in the back of my head, dude. But at least Charlie's here to say it out loud. So, the of the 333 victims that were eventually recovered, 328 were retrieved by Canadian ships and 5 more by passing North Atlantic steamships.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah, bud. And you go, oh, fuck yeah, bud. You're going to Canada. Oh, heck yeah. So, basically, like, a lot of these guys and a lot of these other ships, when they came to recovery for these bodies, they went out on their own time. These are not like White Star Line affiliated ships. These are ships that are operated by other, cruises and things like that. They started bringing on morticians and things like that, and they started cruising kind of up and down Iceberg Alley looking for bodies. Health regulations required that only embalmed bodies could return to port, and so they brought these guys on and preserved only the bodies of the first-class passengers, justifying their decision by the need to visually identify wealthy men to resolve any disputes over large estates. As a result, many third-class passengers and crew were buried at sea, which basically means they fucking left them.
Yeah.
Bodies recovered were preserved for transport to Halifax, the closest city to the sinking, with direct rail and steamship connections. The Halifax Register of Vital Statistics, John Henry Barnstead, developed a detailed system to identify bodies and safeguard personal possessions. Relatives from across North America came to identify and claim bodies. A large temporary morgue was set up in the curling rink of the Mayflower Curling Club, and undertakers were called in from across Eastern Canada to assist. That is the most fucking Canadian way to deal with a mass casualty event.
Oh, yeah, just go put them in the fucking curling rink, bud.
Well, we're not going to put them in the fucking hockey ring, dude.
Yeah, oh, no, they'll get right fucking beat right there, fuck.
You get fucking right beat right there, bud.
Right beat.
Yeah. So... The majority of victims recovered, which was 150 bodies, were buried in 3 Halifax cemeteries, Fairview Lawn Cemetery, followed by the near Mount Olivet and Baron the Hirsch cemeteries. In mid-May of 1912, so a whole month, RMS Oceanic recovered 3 bodies over 200 miles away from the site. Among the original occupants of Collapsible A. When 5th Officer Harold Lowe and 6 crewmen returned to the wreck site sometime after the sinking of the lifeboat to pick up survivors, they rescued a dozen males and 1 female. Excuse me. Oh, I lost it. Oh, 1 female. It's around here somewhere from Collapsible A, but left the dead bodies of 3 of its occupants. After the retrieval from the Collapsible A by the Oceanic, the bodies were buried at sea. A lot of people were buried at sea.
Yeah.
The last Titanic body recovered was steward James McGrady, body number 330.
Jeez.
It's only 330 out of 1,514.
Wow.
Found by the chartered Newfoundland sealing vessel Alderline on May 22nd and buried at Fairview Cemetery on June 12th.
That's my B-day.
That's your birthday? Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's I think the same day that they fucking buried a guy who died in the Titanic. How does that make you feel?
Sick.
All right. Great.
Well, at least he got buried.
At least he got buried. But it's really puts into perspective 1,514. They only found 300.
I mean, I'm surprised they
even found him.
Yeah. I wouldn't, like, honestly, like, all these icebergs and shit over there, I would have, like, probably not went over there with a boat in those days.
Yeah, probably.
At least they were probably kind of like, obviously they were kind of, they're like new icebergs were like, they're like, should probably be cautious, you know?
I mean, yeah, probably.
They probably brought the binoculars.
Probably would be my guess.
Yeah, so I just want to share some survivor stories because we're, kind of bring the podcast down and talk about all this death. Let's talk about some survivor stories.
Okay.
Kind of bring the mood back up a little bit, Kind of bring the fun back into it, right?
Oh, yeah.
So one of the most famous and bizarre Titanic survivor stories is that of Charles Jogan. Does I say that? I think I say that. Jogan, a part of the crew of the Titanic, survived an incident in the most unique manner possible. To combat the bitter cold after the vessel started sinking in the middle of the North Atlantic, the passengers began drinking alcohol to provide inner body warmth, which actually fucking brings your body temperature down.
Yeah.
I've heard this one.
Yes. Jogan used this idea to utmost perfection and binged on alcohol, as depicted in movies such as A Night to Remember and Titanic.
Yeah, he's the chef.
Yep, while the ship sank. Yet, as he was consuming alcohol, Jogan did not forget his duty as a shipman, helping numerous other passengers to deploy lifeboats. So he's fucking tanked, and he's like, get out of the fucking boat! Get out of there! Which is fucking gangster.
My man, dude.
That is my dude. I love this guy.
This guy's dope.
The guy's fucking awesome. When the ship finally sank, he was left waiting in frigid waters of the Atlantic for over 3 fucking hours.
What a pimp, bro.
Before being rescued. He went on to live another 44 years.
Fuck yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did.
Hell yeah.
He was a gangster, dude. Absolute gangster. I'm absolutely blown away.
Dude, he probably hopped on the Carpathia and was having sex.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, he's like technically just like, I'm fucking party.
He probably banged a bitch from both the Titanic and the Carpathia.
Yeah, fucking whatever, dude. That's so funny. Yeah, I just love that story because I thought that was like just the best,
Yeah.
Another story is that of Margaret Brown, was an American philanthropic socialite whose story as the Titanic survivor inspired more confidence than despondency. Called Maggie by her friends and depicted as Molly in various movies, Margaret Brown is remembered for her effort to exhort the crew in her lifeboat to search for more survivors. Molly was later called the Unsinkable Molly Brown posthumously. Anecdotes of survival. Margaret Brown is associated with raising funds to help financially impoverish survivors. She also is remembered for her relief efforts during the First World War. Margaret established the Survivors Committee and raised almost $10,000 for needy survivors when the rescue vessel Carpathia reached New York Harbor with Titanic survivors. The life story of Margaret Brown was documented in the 1960 Broadway musical The Titanic's Molly Brown, based on her life story in its 1964 film adaptation of the same title. She died in 1932 in New York City, probably with a happy life after all that fun.
That's Kathy Bates in the movie.
Is it?
It is,
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
But it's I just a nice kind of wholesome little palate cleanser for these people, because like every one of these survivors are gangsters.
Yeah.
Like just incredible.
Not as much as my dude Chuck, though.
No, dude, that guy's awesome.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, dude. I'm glad like someone didn't like get up and then they're like, now I'm gonna become a fucking mass murderer. Maybe.
No,
No?
he did. I bet you that dude did cool things.
Mm-hmm. Like mass murder.
No.
No. Okay. Yeah.
He probably got laid a lot. Granted that his wiener didn't have like frostbite.
Yeah.
You know.
Frostbite dick.
Yeah,
Probably not.
Frost dick. No, because he was so much alcohol in it.
It's just the coolest thing ever.
Oh yeah,
It's the coolest thing ever.
like a bunch of these pussies died, and he's just like sitting there, just bumping in the water.
Yeah, he's like, the fucking tune's going, dude.
It's probably like when he's like on the ship, he's like, or like on the lifeboat, it's like. That's when he starts shivering because he's out of booze.
What's up, baby?
He's out of booze. Dude, that would be a fun skit to make about that guy. Like his whole perspective once he gets rescued, like on the lifeboats, like
oh yeah, we're going to go party in New York.
I'm about to go to party in New York.
That's
and
awesome.
he's like, watch me, and he dives like back into the water.
And he's like, you guys want to play shark? You guys want to play shark in the water? And they're like, no, Jefferson, we don't, dude.
And he's like doing it for fun. He's like, watch me do a flip off the lifeboat.
You guys want to play chicken? It's like no one wants to play chicken. He goes, hey guy, come over here and you'll be my partner. Oh, he's dead. You want to come be my partner for chicken? Just like yelling to fucking bastards. Yeah, I decided to share the funner stories because a lot of the stories that I did read were really sad.
Yeah.
Like a guy who's like, dad survived the Titanic, and he's like, my dad never took me to baseball games, and I never understood why until I went to my first one. And it's the sound of everyone cheering instead of like screaming, and then I finally understood. It's like,
My God.
that's fucking super sad, dude. You should have kept that to yourself.
Yeah.
That's so fucking sad.
Yeah, but he's dead now.
Yeah.
So,
But he should have like went to baseball games and shit after. You know what I mean? Like, why would you not go to baseball games after? Be like, I got to live, bro.
yeah, it'd be like, they put you on like the jumbotron. You're like, he survived the Titanic,
Bro, that's that guy. And then Chuck's there, fucking drunk as fuck, like shotgun and beers.
Yeah, he's like, I fucking never drink.
Bro, I was there too.
Yeah, dude, fuck yeah. So the metal corpse of the Titanic still sits below the waves to its day, a habitat for fish and the souls of the victims, and pieces of a billionaire sub that was made at a Harbor Freight.
For that to come. I was waiting for that to rear its head.
You fucking knew there was gonna be an OceanGate joke in there somewhere.
I knew.
Did y'all hear that there's another group of billionaires that want to go down?
Yes.
Because they were like, we learned from OceanGate. We're not gonna have just a fucking $10 controller from Amazon to move our ship. I think that solves our entire issue. Like, they're convinced that they can go down and see the Titanic.
I think this time they should use a Nintendo Switch controller. At least it goes. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, So here's the thing about that. So for years, they've been going to Titanic, and it's worked. It's worked, right?
Right.
Okay, so here's the thing. So before this OceanGate shit happened, right?
Yep.
Had someone hit you up and was like, bro, you got a free ticket to go to fucking see Titanic.
Absolutely not.
You wouldn't?
No, absolutely not.
Because you're scared of you're claustrophobic?
I'm not claustrophobic at all. I just know about crush depth and what things happen at the bottom of the ocean, and I just don't like the ocean. I'm not a big fan.
What's crotch depth?
No, crush depth.
Oh, crush depth. Yeah.
Yeah, where
I get
do a certain point and then goes wrong, you're fucking dead. I'm good on that. No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
So
It was really scary. So no.
They did that episode on MythBusters. I'm good.
Did you watch that documentary by James Cameron, the director of the movie Titanic?
He made Titanic.
Yeah. But he goes down to Marianas Trench in a submersible.
Yes.
He built a submersible that can go down that far.
Yeah.
Because he had been to Titanic like a shitload of times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
Like, and the Titanic was only like maybe a quarter of the way down to where Marianas Trench is.
Yeah.
But he had done it like the way he built.
He didn't use an Xbox controller.
That was the whole thing. That's what made it not work, right? No, he had way more planning and forethought into the way that he built the submersible than OceanGate did. Yeah. OceanGate did not do a good job. They cut so many corners, which honestly, not a great sign. You know?
Like the Titanic?
Yeah, you would have thought that they learned.
Well, they didn't cut a corner good enough, is what happened. That's why they sank.
They were like, listen, I know the Titanic cut corners, but what if we cut corners to go see the Titanic? I think it'll work. It didn't, you know?
Well, I think they'll come up with a good one. I mean, like I said, like the technology has existed for years.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To do a good submersible, and there's like submersibles out there that are really good at it.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
Like that shit James Cameron went down to Marianas Trench. It was like a torpedo, and he was standing in it, so it was like upright. His biggest fear was him falling over, tipping like that, and then he would have been fucked.
Yeah,
and died.
I would much rather like take an ROV, you know, like a little drone, kind of go down there, explore it. I think that'd be a lot better.
Yeah,
you can sit comfortably in a cabin.
Because then they would
sip a cocktail.
They would sit because they would go down there, and then they would swim a little drone in there. But then that almost fucked them a couple times and killed them a couple times when they were visiting the Titanic, because they would be like going through the ship in their little drone with their controller, and then they would get like tethered to the bottom. Mm-hmm. And so,
yeah, I'm good on all that shit.
It's a risky business.
It is risky business. But with the story of the Titanic, our story doesn't end with the survivors getting rescued, because there's a lot of conspiracies involving the Titanic. Titanic. Mm-hmm. Let me rewind those words back. I talked about the bulkheads. I talked about the fire and all that stuff. But there's some actually really fun ones in here. Oh. There was a fucking mummy's curse on the Titanic.
Yeah.
Did you stack mummies? Anybody?
Mummy.
Okay.
Isn't there supposed to be a piece of like cursed jewelry on the Titanic?
Allow me to get into it, my dear. One of the passengers who went down with the Titanic was William Stead, a British editor who subscribed to early 20th century spiritualism and had the past several years claiming a cursed mummy was causing mysterious destruction and disaster in London. As with other myths about Egyptian curses and Native American burial grounds, this myth played off the colonists' anxiety about the people whose land they had plundered. On board the Titanic, Stead happily repeated his tale of the mummy's curse to other passengers. After the ship sank, the survivor recounted Stead's story to the New York World, and the media picked it up. The next month, the Washington Post headline ran this headline: "Ghost of the Titanic, vengeance of hoodoo mummy followed man who wrote his own history." It's fucking it's stupid. There was no mummy's curse. There was like. Basically, like, there was no mummy. They said there was a mummy on board, but the mummy's actually at the British Historical Museum. That's
claimed to be.
Yeah.
I mean, this is incredibly off topic. I would love to do an episode on mummy's curse.
Yes. Let's do it.
Oh.
There's a whole conspiracy theory about the bulkhead doors not being securely fashioned, but that's also been proven to be improbable, that the doors were actually closed because they fucking hit a goddamn iceberg because some dudes can't see. Because essentially what happens is it was such a clear night, it created almost like a cold mirage.
Yeah.
So they couldn't see. And they hit a fucking ice rock that eventually just melted.
Yep.
It was gone. So, but one of the big conspiracies is, did the man who paid for the Titanic, own the Titanic, use it to kill his rivals? Oh. Murder.
Oh.
Some conspiracy theorists believe that the Titanic was sunk on purpose to eliminate opposition from the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank. Some of the wealthiest men in the world were on board the Titanic for her maiden voyage, some of whom, including John Jacob Astor the Fourth, Benjamin Guggenheim, and Isidor Straus, were allegedly opposed to the creation of the U.S. Central Bank. No evidence of opposition to J.P. Morgan. Yes, that J.P. Morgan. The spirit's poking her head up. Who owned the Titanic. There was no evidence of any of this stuff. Basically, they based the whole spirit that theory stems around that like J.P. Morgan was like, I will get rid of these fuckers so I can get all the money. It's absurd. It doesn't make any sense. But in any case, the Titanic still sits in its watery graves just outside 300-something miles off of Newfoundland. It's fucking there. Be square.
Oh. Yeah. I would be down, honestly, when I die, instead of getting buried. I think they should just chuck my body over the Titanic.
Yeah, I'll do it.
And I would be down to join them in their watery grave.
Join us in a watery grave.
You got it, dude. I'm on the way.
Join us. And then you can take a submersible and see me down there.
Yeah.
Just like this.
Yeah, that's a vibe.
Yeah.
I think the craziest part is that the water is so cold that they are not decomposing. They're just there.
Yeah.
Like the bodies. They've never decomposed at all.
Wait, I heard that they're not there. Because if they went underwater, wouldn't the pressure and
It's
shit...
too cold.
I'm
so,
sure
like,
there's remnants of passengers there.
Yeah, so the other thing is like they didn't go down like super duper fast. Like they slowly sink, so your body slowly acclimates to the pressure that's happening.
Yeah.
Versus like, so what happened with the submersible, why there's none of those billionaires left is because their bodies did not acclimate to the pressure. They just gone.
Yeah.
Dust.
Reduced to atoms.
It's like when you go deep sea fishing and you bring up a fish. They don't look anything like they
Joke's
look.
on you. Not going deep sea fishing. Not going that far in the ocean.
They don't look anything like how they look down there because they
Anything like the simulations? Okay. Star Wars joke.
they come up so fast.
Yeah.
They don't have time to acclimate. It's like a blobfish actually doesn't look like that down there.
It's true.
They look like that because they are fucking...
You can hear a river in the background. I do apologize. Someone's at the front door.
God forbid.
God forbid.
But blobfish don't look like that. They only look like that because they came up to the surface too fast.
Well, did everyone have fun and feel sad and then have fun again?
Yeah.
Great. That's all we hope for here. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode of Haunts, Graves, and Omens. If you want to follow us, you can at HGOPodcast on TikTok and Instagram, and Haunts, Graves, and Omens on Facebook. If you want to follow me directly, you can at IHaunted on TikTok and Twitch and Instagram. I'm out there. I'm going to pass it off to Tay.
Hi, it's me. You can follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Lunar Thrill. You can also follow our dog at Spirit the Turf.
Spirit the Turf.
Charles.
Follow me on Instagram at Charley Haggard. Check out the new MFA record called Post-Apocalypse Depression.
It's a good album.
Oh, and check out the new Possum record.
Yes, go check out the new
My
Possum.
other band with Troy and Drew.
Yeah.
What I play bass in, but it's more of Troy's vision. But it's good shit.
It's good shit.
There's one single out called BB Corey, but I think maybe by the time this comes out, this comes out like tonight, doesn't it?
Comes out Sunday.
Oh, okay. Within like the next week or so, the full album should be out. So,
fuck yeah, dude.
Possum,
baby.
Okay.
Well, Charlie, thank you for joining us on H.G.O again, my guy.
It was my pleasure.
Hope you had fun with Titanic.
Should we end with a song?
Well, we're gonna end the way that I think is the best way to end this.
Well, what if we sing the song then end with the...
Well, hear me out. You're gonna love this, Charlie. Ready?
Okay.
Remember to stay spooky
Stay haunted.
and join us in a watery grave.